I don't think people really understand how significant this freeze on all federal funding is. That's something like 5% of the workforce out of jobs. That's Medicaid, that's food stamps, that's college loans, that's like benefits for veterans. If this is not resolved quickly, if this freeze on funding is not temporary, shit's gonna hit the fan fast. It's gonna hit the fan faster than a lot of people are understanding right now.
Hello everyone, this is Emmanuel Cook. We will be reacting to a new video today, so make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe down below, and let's get into the video.
Trump's executive order to freeze federal funding that could or could not include a lot of the resources that people need on a daily basis actually sparked a lot of discussion with politicians across news channels, as we expected. Now, I happened to come across an interview on CNN where the reporter was asking Representative Rich McCormick what he thought about the federal funding freeze that could potentially impact free lunch. If you have not seen it, I don't even want to tell you anything before you go watch it. So pause this video, go Google it, and then come back. All right, so now that you're back, this man got on CNN and said, ultimately, and this is the crazy part, he was talking about when he was in high school. He said that he used to be a paper boy, and then when he got in high school, he had a job. And so at this rate, there shouldn't be free lunch because these children need to go and get a job and work so they can pay for their lunch. But we're not necessarily thinking about the fact that some of these people might live in rural areas where the closest job could be 30 minutes from them. Or maybe they don't even have transportation to get there. And I guess his logic would be to walk, but that's not even reasonable if they live off of a dangerous highway. In addition to that, the thing that is much more important here, it's not about saying, are these children taking advantage of opportunities to establish strong work ethic? That's not what this question was about. It was much more about providing the children that are in need of something, the resource that they need. So think about the disenfranchised party. Think about the people that don't have access to a lot of money. Think about the people whose moms have to work 3 jobs so they're not getting breakfast, lunch, and dinner because their mom is at work. Think about the 5-year-old that's in kindergarten. You want them to go get a job to pay for lunch? Free lunch was established for a certain reason. Now, then he started to talk about how they shouldn't be able to sit home in the summertime and get a free lunch. The reason that the free lunch program was started is because there is an indicator that shows educators that sometimes, not even sometimes, oftentimes, children are not fed if they don't go to school. So when they had that most recent like snow situation, a lot of people were online talking about, hey, you do realize that those kids that don't get food unless they go to school are starving right now. And a lot of that is because a lot of these parents are probably working as hard as they can because they might have a lack of education or they might have a lack of ability and they can barely keep the lights on. So when you're talking about having access to food, they might not have access to that. Accessibility is a real thing. And what it also lets me know is these representatives are so out of touch with the American people. They live so high on their horse. They live so high in financial success, financial stability, that they don't even understand that there are people that can't even pay their rent. That is why they need rental assistance. Now, there are people that might have 5, 6, 7 jobs. Okay, that's another conversation for another day. But there are also people that have disabilities that are leaning on free lunch to be able to fill the gap for them. You do not know what people's situation are. And as a representative, I actually anticipate and expect that you would do the research to understand the nature of how your constituents live. But what that let me know is there are people in these positions that don't look like me and you, that don't understand that your neighbor can be living in a very affluent neighborhood with you and struggling to make ends meet because you work so hard to get there and you're going to work real hard to keep it. You don't know what people got to do to stay somewhere. And unfortunately, majority of the politicians never really had to work super duper hard to get what they have right now. They don't understand the fact that as a black woman, I got to work 10 times harder than their white grandson to be able to get the same job, the same opportunities, the same internships, the same partnerships, the same connections, the same access to money, the same access to equity. I can't get it unless I work super hard. My work always got to speak for me, and my work got to precede me. My work can't just be what it is. It's never going to be enough just blanket statement. I'm going to have to be fabulous or I'm going to be nothing. So Representative Rich McCormick, if ever this video crosses your path, let this be a reminder to you that the people that you represent don't live the same life as you. These people, some of them don't even have access to the ability to get a job because maybe they only had a second grade education. Some of these people don't have access to the ability to get a job. Maybe they have disabilities. Maybe they have mental disabilities. Maybe they have physical disabilities. Some of these people won't ever be able to feed their children 3 times a day. You know why? Because minimum wage won't even pay rent in most of the areas where these people live. So some of them either have to deal on supplemental resources in order to survive or have to work 3, 4, 5 jobs. So for the mama that's working 3, 4, 5 jobs, since you want to talk about jobs, and then the child is working too, they're working to pay the bills in the house. So even if those 16-year-olds are working, they don't have the money to come to the school and pay $1.75 for lunch each day. There is funding for free lunch, so why not make that a thing that happens? Why not? Because you would rather spend the money on cutting the taxes for the rich versus helping and supporting the poor. Imagine if we could give the resources to the poor and enhance and increase the population of the rich. Because as we give them the resources, we're helping them get back on their feet. We're helping establish financial wealth. We're helping establish generational wealth. And these people are building the blocks of success. Imagine. For Representative Rich McCormick, I hope those words don't come back to bite you.
So here's my unsolicited opinion, take, 2 cents on the federal freeze that's been going on. One thing that I've been thinking about lately is I work for a company that provides a essential resource to the New York City area. I don't want to explicitly out where I work for just various reasons. And it's not like, like me talking about my job or the company that I work for, but more so just an observation. So a significant amount of our customers and the people that I talk to are on some form of government assistance, specifically SNAP and Medicaid. And we have a program for people who are on these programs to receive a discount on their service. Now, even prior to the Orange Man coming back into office, people were still struggling. Like, there were people that were working multiple jobs, and the job itself that I work, every day I hear stories about people losing their jobs or a death in the family, or they just had a baby, or some sort of significant life event that they made us aware of if they had fallen behind on paying their bill. Now, the power cut with Canada, I'm not sure how that's going to affect any of this, but prior to all of this, people were already struggling. People, already had something to say about their bill, how they can't really afford it. But this is going to make everything so much worse. Because even the people that were on that program and are getting that assistance, they're still struggling. A lot of these people can't even pay their rent, let alone keep up with their bills. So I feel like an imposter for saying that I have compassion fatigue, because I'm not a nurse, I'm not a first responder, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a social worker. But every day I feel so tired. And I get that people are stressed out and struggling, but I'm really afraid it's about to get so much worse. Because if these people didn't have it before, there's going to just be so many more people struggling. I'm really worried. This is really bad.
This is my 3rd time trying to record this. I don't know quite how to get this across. The federal freeze, there is a list from the Department of Budget or whatever of agencies or programs that might be affected. They say Head Start is on the list, but they say Head Start's not involved. But the Federal Child Care Block Grant Fund, which pays for subsidies for students and low-income people, that one, no comma on that, no asterisks. And also the funding for child abuse, neglect, the CPS funding from the federal government, that's on the block, as is the child trafficking. I can't even. What are they doing?
First of all, y'all, it has been a doozy of a week when it comes to federal loans and grants, like shaking of the table type of doozy of the week. But I'm going to tell you something that you need to keep in mind. There was initially a memo sent out about federal loans and grants being frozen, on the verge of being frozen. And since then, there's been some reversal happening. But I will let you know, though, that even though there's a reversal, the administration is really looking through this with a fine-tooth comb. So that means that some organizations are still at risk of not being funded. Here's some things that can help in this situation. One thing about me is I'm big on building relationships. And so in this particular season that we're in, now more than ever, it's time for community. Like seriously, like it's time to really structure and build your community. How do you do that? Build relationships. How do you build relationships? You reach out to other organizations or other individuals that are in the same space as you, that like the same things that you like, that are into the same things, that service the same people. I believe that it's better to be together than to be divided. In this season, guys, this is something, it's strategic to help you continue to build business funding. Of course, yes, there might be some volatility in terms of the grant space, in terms of the loan space on a federal level, but there are also opportunities to seek funding more so on the corporate level, more so on the private donor level, all types of ways to gain some levels of funding, guys. There's plenty of opportunity for all of us to still eat. There's plenty of opportunity for all of us to come together. So one of the things is make sure we stay together, stick together, and build out fundraising opportunities together to continue to yield to the community, continue to give to the community, continue to service the people that we need to serve. Y'all, I don't know what's happening. You don't know what's happening, but I know one thing. We can do it if we stick together.
A quick reminder, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and let's continue the video.
Guys, I'm trying to figure out this federal funding freeze situation that's come out today that's got everybody in a panic. And as far as federal student aid is concerned, what does it mean that they're pausing? What does it mean that they're pausing federal aid to different agencies? And how does this affect whether or not you get your student loan money or whatever? So as far as I've researched and as far as I understand, this is not going to affect individuals receiving money. It's going to be affecting grants that are discretionary. That means, for example, what does that look like? Like, for example, if you are a professor at a college and you apply for a grant for your research on whatever it is that you research, that would be considered discretionary because what the Trump administration wants to do is they want to make sure that money isn't allotted to research or whatever that goes directly against Trump's executive orders. As this pertains to college students and financial aid and those of you who are applying for financial aid, as of now, this is not affecting anybody in that way in the short term. You will still be receiving your financial aid. Your financial aid packages, as they have been received, if they've been received, are not changing. I think we need to be watching this, obviously, for the long term. If there's the trickle-down effect of a larger federal grants being sort of siphoned off and lessened, and then how that might ultimately affect financial aid, in the long term. But as of now, and a judge has blocked the order anyway until February 3rd, which is only next week. But if you are applying for financial aid, proceed as you have been. Do what you need to do. Make sure your financials are in order. Don't panic. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Don't panic.
Because Donald Trump has ordered a freeze on federal funding right now, a lot of programs could be affected. That includes WIC programs for women, infant, and children. That includes Section 8. That includes the HUD program. That includes funding for domestic violence programs, funding for the kids' school for free lunches. There's a lot of things that's going to be impacted if this is allowed to go through. The number one question is, nobody knows if it's legal for Donald Trump to actually be able to do this, because this is money that was allocated for these specific programs. And so it's just like he's showing up and he's doing away with things, and it might not be the legal process that he's doing in order to get rid of these things. But at the end of the day, the damage will be done to all of those people that are expecting these programs for help. One of the other things was funding for help with fighting crime. So those are police fundings that's also going to be affected by this. This is crazy. Tell me, did anybody else hear about this? Let me know. Put something in the comments. Let me know.
The Trump administration tried to freeze all federal financial aid this week. Here's what you need to know in less than 2 minutes. The U.S. Office of Management and Budget suddenly froze all federal grants to states, schools, and organizations across the country on Tuesday, then quickly backtracked. But some damage was already done. For several hours on Tuesday, nonprofits, health clinics, and service providers were locked out of funding portals. Even state Medicaid agencies couldn't access federal funds for the health insurance program that covers more than 72 million low-income Americans. In our home state of Colorado, the state's community health network also had trouble accessing funds and said a halt in federal grants could impact more than 857,000 Coloradans who rely on care. This is a big deal, and it wasn't just a bureaucratic oopsie. The freeze targeted programs that were tied specifically to Trump's executive orders. Think gutting DEI, pushing fossil fuels, and restricting trans rights, to name a few. While it was blocked in court temporarily, it exposed how fragile federal funding really is in these times. So here's what you can do. You can contact your members of Congress and inform them that it's important that we protect federal funding for the critical programs that have been supporting our communities for decades. And you can also support organizations you care about with your own dollar if you're able. Grassroots donations fill the gaps when moments like this happen. Because quite frankly, uncertainty is only growing. And community action is always going to be our strongest defense against injustice.
That spending freeze was a horrible idea. Terrible idea from Trump. Stopping all kinds of funding for those who need it the most. Come on. Organizations need that funding as well. Scholarships and the grants and all of these things, right? We need funding. But I thank God that federal judge just said, nope, it's not going to go down. Thank God for that, because we literally need funding, especially in this 2025. We need all the money that we can get.
Look, now that I have a little bit more of a clear mind after learning about and then experiencing one day of the federal funding freeze, I just wanted to say how my day went yesterday, in case you're curious. So, hi, my name is Mark, and I run a homeless shelter and a soup kitchen. We actually have a lot of housing too, and a lot of it is Section 8, so that is affected by the potential freeze at this point, since now there's a federal injunction, and we'll see what happens. But I started yesterday by first waking up, drinking my coffee, learning every single thing that I possibly can, so I know that what's in bounds and what's out of bounds, what has happened and what hasn't. And then the text started coming to me from other executive directors in my town who just started Like, are you concerned about this? Did you hear anything about this? Did you hear anything about that? Millions upon millions of dollars was what we were texting about. Money that has been spent in the past because there was a promise by federal law to get reimbursed. And now we might not get reimbursed by programs, whether it depends on how they pass. Are they DEI? Are they gender woke? I don't know what or how they're going to do this across the entire country and analyze every single program. But if they find that, yes, you're out of scope, it doesn't matter if you already spent funds. It doesn't matter that it was passed like years ago and is baked into federal budgets to come. You're out of the money. And so I was faced with a very real possibility of like no longer being able to sign checks for rental assistance. It was a rough day. That was okay. Now we're at 9 a.m. yesterday. Okay. Then I go to work, to the office, and I pull every single caseworker aside who works especially on housing assistance, but also other caseworkers. And I say, look, if you have people coming to you who are concerned about Social Security or concerned about disability or concerned about individual things that come directly from the government to you, because this was a clear thing in the order. It was very clear that it said, even in the press conference, as nuts as that was, there were points of clarity where they said your Social Security and disability is not being affected. Okay. They also said Medicaid wasn't affected, and then it turns out that the Medicaid system was blocked across the entire country and nobody could get reimbursement. So I don't actually know, but the message at the time was the message that I gave to my caseworkers, which is that this is about grantees to the federal government, not about people. So if you have people coming to you, please try to calm them down, right? Okay, so I did that. That took a while because I have caseworkers. I had to go, every single person's office and just talk to everybody one by one. And then I had to go to a lunch. I went to a lunch with a donor. It was a big donor. I couldn't cancel it. And I did what probably one shouldn't do, is that I just kind of like dumped on them for like just a little bit. But they really cared and wanted to listen. And were like, well, how much money are you out? Which is a great question that you can get from a donor. And I was able to say, like, look, there is actual money that we already spent that we tried to get reimbursed for yesterday, but the system was closed and we couldn't get it. Anyway, off of that, the news called me, so I had to go straight from the donor to do an interview with our local television news, who has all of the news outlets were calling everybody around the entire region. And so I did that, and then we went into a staff meeting. The staff meeting was already scheduled, and what we had scheduled for the staff meeting was a redux on what ICE is and what your rights are for, in case there's literally a raid. I wish there was a softer word for this, but like even the mainstream news outlets are calling this ICE raids. So what to do if immigration officials come into your space? What are your rights? Do you have to say anything? And so we went through that. We had handouts, we had PowerPoint presentations. There was a guest speaker who runs a local organization who, like, getting paid no money at all, is running around helping people with what their rights are and are on call basically 24/7. So we did that, and that devolved into wait a second, what about the news today too? So it was a very meaningful staff meeting where we kind of really went through what the realities are. They were not ones where I posed any fear for someone's job, because it's way too premature for anything like that. And also, when you really look at it, it might not actually mean we could cut parts of programs. We could even cut a couple full programs. I don't think it means jobs at this point in time, especially for me, because we have so we served 127 people in our meal center yesterday. So we do not have space for 127 people, but that is the number of people that have been showing up. And you can't cut staff at a time where you have hundreds of people coming in off the street every single day. So that's not something that could possibly really be on the table at this point. And it was a very good conversation about a lot of people who were hanging on a thread wanting to hear some information. And I had to spend my day making sure that I had information, because that is the thing. Not, please, things will be better, be upbeat. Like, that stuff does not work. It does not work. But information works. So then we went there. I don't remember what happened after the staff meeting, probably other things. Eventually I had to go pick up my son, who, incidentally, then I had to take him through, both my wife and I had to sort of sit down with him and hear about his day, which was where his math teacher decided to pepper him with questions for like half an hour during a study hall session and ask him why he sits down for the pledge. His math teacher in a public school sat down with him and started talking about like, well, let me just ask you, it's a free country, you can ask questions, like, what's your position on immigration? He asked what his position was on the settlement of the United States, like the displacement of Native Americans in the United States. Like, what's your position on that? His teacher said. And then his teacher proceeded to give his own position to my son, who had to listen to this the whole time. And by the way, not do his math homework, and had to come home and do his math homework because he was being like bugged by his teacher the whole entire time. My son sits for the pledge. He's going to continue sitting for the pledge. He stands up for himself. He says exactly why he does it, and up to and including it might not live in this country someday. But he's comfortable in himself, he's 15, to say this to a teacher. That happened yesterday. And not only is it wrong and terrible and insensitive and breaking both moral, ethical, and probably actual rules at the school district, but it was yesterday. Like, how obtuse do you have to be to ask questions about immigration at a time that ICE raids are actually happening or about to happen? Like, how just out of touch. So we had to deal with that. And then we kind of rolled into the evening, and I'll tell you, I made a vegetarian tater tot casserole. It was absolutely not vegan, vegetarian, just because we didn't have, we do eat meat, but we didn't have any ground beef in the house. We did have tuna in the house, but I'm not going to make a tuna tater tot casserole. I think that is like a completely ridiculous thing to do. I know that some people do it. I know that because it said that on the internet, but I just think it's really crazy. So leave a blue heart if you got this, because I want to feel the love, like if you saw this whole entire video, and also bless you if you did. But that was my day yesterday as a person who runs a nonprofit organization in this administration.
I appreciate you guys watching the video today. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.